Welcome to Lesson 17, Adding New Backend Users. BigCommerce offers unlimited users with every account. Yes, with every account, BigCommerce offers unlimited users, allowing you granular control over people that can access your system. These are meant for sales staff, managers, editors, website designers, and every app in between. You'll need to set the permission what assets they can access. Now, it does require a valid email, and you can do things like select access to WebDAV, which is your file storage, unlimited file storage from BigCommerce. And with such permissions comes a lot of responsibility. If someone deletes the wrong files, corrupts the wrong template, you can incur serious costs and serious downtime for a silly mistake. So we want to be very careful about who we allow access to our system and what permissions we allow them to access as well. You can manage granular permissions for your user accounts for all the different types of users you might have, and you can easily create and update access to any account at any time, allowing you to revoke access or expand access as needed on demand. You can set up API-only users. That way, the apps that are using the API, you can maintain permissions over what information they can change or retrieve. And you can provide selected access to selected apps, so you have granular control over those as well. You should always carefully review the permissions so that you understand exactly what you're granting access to. And with that said, you should always test the user's access permissions inside the user account so that you can see what they see and make sure that they're not seeing anything they shouldn't, and they are seeing everything they should. So let's go in and start adding users. Account settings, and over to users, and you see I have my trial user, which is the store owner account, which I set up when I started my BigCommerce trial. This store owner account must be assigned to one of the users in your list. That store owner account will have unrestricted access to your system and unrestricted access to updating, adding, and deleting users. So let's go ahead and create a user. On a note to begin with, we can quickly select all emails or all users in this list and delete them. A feature that you want to be very careful with, especially after you've been using this system for years. Let's go ahead and create a new user. I'm going to put my test user. I'm going to set his status to active. His language is English. Unfortunately, it's the only one I know. And now we can select the permissions for which role we want to assign to this user. When I change the permission of the role, when I change the user role, all the permissions, sales staff permission, sales manager permission, systems, high risk, and single app permissions will change. This will be dictated on the set of permissions that's assigned to this role. So we have store administrator, store manager, and sales manager and sales staff as the positions which we already assigned user, staff manager, and admin permissions for. So if we want to add sales staff, such as a new sales clerk, POS attendant, etc., we can add them quickly and easily using this, and then go down the list of permissions and uncheck anyone that we don't want them to have access over. For example, my sales staff don't need access to the image manager. I'm not going to go through all of them. There's about 50 here. But my point is that most of them won't be applicable to your specific use case, and you want to use the user permissions which have the least security access. So we want to minimize all the permissions that we grant to any user. That user should only be accessing the system to access the resources for which they should. That means that if this person shouldn't be adding coupons or managing legacy coupons, they sure shouldn't have access to it. In the future, if this user changes or someone gains access to the account, having a lot of permissions assigned to that user will create a lot of problems for you. Remember, you can always go and increase the amount of permissions the user has at any time allowing them access to more and more as time goes by, as they need. Under the high-risk permissions, which is a special new category for BigCommerce, we can create store-level API accounts, and we can grant permissions where the user can create store-level API accounts, launch applications, install applications, which can severely change a lot of things for our website. When we allow these permissions to a user, we have to be very careful because they can do things like script injection or malicious content and cause us a whole lot of problems, which we could have avoided by just accessing or granting the correct permissions. So when we're launching new users, we want to be specifically paying attention to the admin, high risk, and single click apps. For these are the highest risk attribute or properties, permissions, highest risk permissions that the user can have access to. They can all almost change your site, and effectively a person can take ownership even if they wanted to, even if you don't want them to, if they have all of these selected. With that said, when we save this user, you can go and assign the store owner account to a different user. So if somebody hacks your system and decides that they want to set the store owner to themselves, and you have granted them permission to do so, they can all of a sudden become the store owner and do a lot of damage. So just managing your permissions and being diligent about it can save you a lot of headaches now and in the future. Finally, we have access to WebDAV, and that is our file storage unit. We can use CyberDuck, a separate program, to access our file storage, which we'll go over in a later lesson. When we enable WebDAV, we'll get a username and password. The username will be the email for the user, and the password will be listed here. You also get a path that you'll use in setting it up, and you can click the link to see setup instructions from BigCommerce. In our next lesson, we'll be reviewing customers, the customer list, adding and deleting customers, and how to assign them to customer groups if your account has customer groups enabled.